Next is our quality control module. This is probably one of the biggest adds to the Business Central platform that we've done. With our solution, you'll be able to track tests that you want to run for your products. You can quarantine products and then save the results of any tested product indefinitely. So let's go ahead and hop in and take a look at that. I'm going to go back to the demo. And I'm going to quickly change my role center so that I'm a QC admin, so that we can see what a quality control person's role center looks like. Notice before I was a salesperson and I had sales related tasks on my home screen. Now I'm in QC and I have more quality related things. Let's go ahead and go to administration and look at the QC tests. So I'm going to open, I've got all these different tests that I've set up. And one of them is, let's just go ahead and open one of these tests. So we'll go to the CBD test, total CBD. So here I've said I want to test total CBD. And if I go to my result list, my result test results, here I can see what results are allowed for this item, or this test, I'm sorry. So my total CBD test, I've said I just need a range of what the total CBD is. Anything from 0 to 100 is passing. So we don't care if it's what number it is in there, it's going to be passing. We might have other tests where we have options of, for example, here I've got some options of just pass, fail, or we might have different decimal ranges. My tests tend to be rather simplistic for the sake of demo purposes. So I can create all the tests that we want to run on products in general, and then I can assign those tests to what are called QC groups. Oops, I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. I can assign these tests to QC groups. So if I open up this group called Standard Flower and Trim Testing, here we can see all the tests that are part of that group. So these are the different tests: total THC, CBD, a formula for total cannabinoids. Here I've got a test that just says QC results attached. You might get 100 tests back from the lab on any product, excuse me, but you might not want to track that level of detail of tests in the system. So you would be able to attach a PDF of the results from the lab, and then this is just a pass-fail, meaning yes, I attach them to make sure your users have attached the results. So now I can take this test group and assign it to any items that are appropriate for that. So let's go back to, we'll go to a different item just so you can see a different item card. We'll go to here, this bulk trim that we might purchase. And we've assigned in the QC section down here at the bottom that this item gets the standard flower and trim testing. So here's that QC group assigned to it. And what's interesting is I can take one of these results. Maybe for this one product, I want to make sure that the total THC has a minimum base of 10% or something like that. So you might have some products that might be a premium product and you can override what the allowable results are. So I could choose this total THC and change the range on this instead of 0 to 100, 10 to 100 if I wanted to. So you can override at the item level. We like to talk about managing by exception. You don't want to manage every single detail. So you can assign the group to the items and then go find the exceptions and override the group. I want to go to another item and show you something that I think is really an awesome feature, if allowable in your state, and that is our feature called inheritance. So here I've got a vape cartridge, and this cartridge, if I scroll down, there we go, you'll notice it doesn't have a QC group assigned to it. In my state, I'm allowed to test the distillate that is filled in the cartridge, and I don't have to retest the finished good. If you can enjoy that situation, you'll notice here that I've got what I call a QC source item. So basically, I've said that whenever I fill a cartridge, inherit the QC results of the batch of distillate that went into that batch of cartridges. So we can inherit the results of a component item that went into our finished good. And then we'll be able to track those results with the finished good as well. We could add a test group to the cartridge also, and we could inherit as well as then have other testing. Maybe we want to just have a visual inspection of the cartridges to make sure there's no leaking. So we can inherit the distillate results as well as have our own tests assigned to the vape cartridge. Then I would just assign another QC group right here. The final thing I'd like to show you on our QC is how we can, well, actually, I'm going to show you two things. I'm going to filter a list of results. Maybe I want to find a product that meets a certain minimum requirements because I'm going to do an extraction. I want to make sure I get the good stuff for that extraction. I can pull up my lot list and I can come into the quality control section and do what's called apply QC filter. So I can choose an item number. So we'll choose that bulk product that we bought. Whoops, too many zeros. Here we go. We'll choose this bulk trim. And we can say we want to find everything where our CBD content is greater than 12. And again, I just make stuff up so I can get some good results. And I happen to know that my data shows that. So now it's returned to me the lots that have CBD greater than 12, and that's all it's returned. And notice for each of these batches, as I click, I can see what the results were for those lab tests that we tested on that item. So that's kind of exciting. Then when we go to pick for this production process, our production manager can tell the pickers which batch they want them to choose. I'd like to spend a moment talking about the quarantine process. Let's go ahead and open an item. I'm going to open, well, we can go back to that raw O2 item. And here you'll see that we have on hand inventory of 37,506 grams of the product. 23,886 are available, meaning they've passed QC. And in fact, if I click on that number, I can see all the batches and the QC results associated with it. So I could print a C of A from here. I could get right down to the details of that batch. If I click on unavailable, these are the batches that either haven't passed inventory, haven't passed inspection, or have failed. Let me say that again. Here, the QC unavailable is the total quantity that either hasn't been tested or has failed inspection. I think all of mine haven't been tested yet, but if it had failed, I would see the failing results here on the right. Okay, Jennifer, do you have anything to add about quarantining? Have you, any of your customers had experience, positive results from having quarantined and protected themselves from disaster?
Oh, yes. And, we have different people who will set up different rules in the system depending on how they want to handle inventory that either has not yet passed testing, if they're waiting for results. We have customers who may manufacture goods and then they will output everything into a quarantine location what that does is it separates the inventory. So even though we're looking here at the item card and saying, okay, here's our QC unavailable inventory like Sara just showed, we can even further isolate that inventory, move it into what we call a quarantine location. So that way when somebody's creating a sales order, they don't even have the opportunity to see that inventory as being available to them. And then we have different filtered views we can create on that. Or if we send something out for testing and we get results back and say, hey, this lot, this either needs to do additional testing, needs to go through remediation, etc. We can isolate that inventory by moving that into a quarantine location and really kind of getting it out of the view of the mainstream inventory. And therefore, people aren't having to pick through the lots or the tags that have passed testing. And it makes things just a lot easier and a smoother flow for everyone.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. We could spend hours on QC. That module has a lot of meat to it, so we'd be happy to show you that in more detail.